We're 10 years in to President Trump, and people still don't get it, and they still can't see this stuff coming from a mile down the road. 6:04, good morning, happy Thursday. Enjoy today because, as you heard Luke Doris just say, after today, the weather gets absolutely miserable for the next few days with snow and freezing temps, well below 10 degrees, wind chills down to minus 10, minus 15. We are in for it. So when it's 40 degrees today, go out there and run around and act like it's summertime. So in Davos, Switzerland yesterday, the president of the United States got his Greenland deal. That's right. Yes, he did. He got his deal with Greenland. And there's a lot of people that are out there right now saying, how did this happen? I thought we were going to attack them. I thought we were going to storm the beaches or the ice of Greenland with our troops. I mean, I don't know if they were joking or not. I'm thinking they weren't joking. But somebody said to me, they're like, Pete, I'm not ready to go to war with Greenland. I'm draft age. I'm like, dude, stop. I don't know what media you're consuming, but it's not the right media. Just give it up, man. Enough. This was never going to happen the way that a lot of people predicted it was going to happen. This is what Trump does. He asks for 10 times what he wants, and then when he gets what he really wants, he makes it look like everybody came out on top. He makes it look like, boy, we avoided war with that crazy guy. Woo! Oh, boy, we could have had, U.S. troops around Greenland. Oh, my God. Woo. We dodged a bullet. So here's what the president put up yesterday, first day in Davos. Based on a very productive meeting that I had with the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, we have formed the framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland and, in fact, the entire Arctic region. This solution, if consummated, will be a great one for the United States of America and all NATO nations. Based upon this understanding, I will not be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go into effect on February 1st. Additionally, discussions are being held concerning the Golden Dome as it pertains to Greenland. Further information will be made available as discussions progress. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and various others as needed will be responsible for negotiations. They will report directly to me. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump. Listen, this is how it was always going to go. There was not going to be a war with Greenland. There was not going to be some massive attack on the 8 people and 17, dog sleds around Greenland. That's not what this was about. That's not really what Trump wanted. He got what he wanted. He did. And he made that very clear in their post on Truth Social yesterday. That's what this was all about. He sees geopolitical reasons to have more of an influence in what goes on in Greenland. This was not about Greenland becoming the 51st state or something like that. That was never part of the equation either. It wasn't. But Trump made it very clear that there's strategic value in being more involved in that part of the world. And that's why he went about it this way. And you could see it from, way down the road, how this was going to play out. And Byron York on Fox News, he was on the panel last night with Bret Baier. He put it very well. It's like, guys, we all knew that this was probably how this thing was going to play out.
This was kind of classic Trump, wasn't it? Trump wants something, and then he asks for 10 times that, and the other side flips out, and they go back and forth and go back and forth. It becomes a huge news story. Finally, they make an offer. He agrees to it. And it's kind of what they could have gotten in the first place.
And says they're wonderful people and happy to work with them. And suddenly it's this dismount that we could predict by how it's set up at the beginning.
Yes, and the other side's happy because they think they dodged a bullet. So it's just classic Trump.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot about this deal we don't really know, right? We have Trump saying there's a framework of a deal with Greenland. The New York Times has quotes here from anonymous officials as saying, one idea under discussion is for Denmark to cede sovereignty over small areas of Greenland where the U.S. would build military bases, as in the UK model. So that always seemed like the more obvious approach for the United States, because let's be honest, we do have things we have to figure out in our 50 states, right? Like, we don't want more things to have to take care of when we have issues here in our homeland. But when you talk about the idea of specific areas of Greenland to build military bases, that would make sense for the United States. When you look at the globe from the top down, you can see why there is intrigue in this piece of ice, which is really what it is, John.
Yeah, those Chinese weather balloons that Biden let go by, they didn't just take the Pacific Ocean like Kon-Tiki and Thor Heyerdahl and take the long way. I'm pretty sure they came over the top that way.
Well, and that's right. I mean, we think about, how would a plane get there? It's like there's other ways to get around the world outside of how a plane might get from point A to point B.
Correct.
To your point. So that's in large part what this is about as well. You have the Gulf of Alaska, that when you look at how this thing works through the Arctic, and then on the west side of Greenland, there's reason for the United States to care about this for our own national security, especially as it relates to China and Russia, as John just noted there.
I was looking at the map from the top of the world, and I was looking at it as a defensive secondary. And I'm going, okay, so out on one corner there, we've got Alaska and the U.S. We've got that covered. But then the big gap with Canada there in the middle, you're a little suspect, might need a little help.
Yep, that's going to require zone coverage. You're right about that. So you're right. And what's interesting is since Trump makes this announcement yesterday, which is not going to lead to some kind of war between NATO countries and going into Greenland or any of that, because what Trump ultimately is trying to do is actually help these guys help themselves. And that was a big part of yesterday's speech in Davos. Trump's basically saying, let me help you. Let me help you help yourself. Like that's a big part of this. He's trying to get these guys to grow a backbone there in Europe and all of these NATO countries. If he didn't feel like he had to do it, he wouldn't do it. But let's be honest. These guys and gals in Europe have allowed their countries to be basically destroyed in large part by third world immigration. And they have, or I don't want to say they have no culture left. They are losing the culture that made them great at one point. They are not the countries that they once were. And that's because of declining birth rates, because of immigration issues, and also just a fecklessness on the world stage. And to have the leader of the United States, whether you voted for the guy or not, stand up there and tell them that to their faces, my goodness, it feels good.
Touche.
Because we've been carrying the load for these guys and gals for far too long. We have. And to have him go in there yesterday and slap him around a little bit, and then literally within 8 hours of landing, have the framework of a deal that we don't have all the details on, but the framework of a deal to potentially have key parts of Greenland for military bases makes sense. And the only thing that surprised me is how quickly it came to fruition. That's it. That's the extent of what surprises me about all of this. So when you look at some of the media reaction, though, this is great, right? Because they can't admit when they're wrong on this stuff. Here's the headline in Politico. Trump steps back from the brink on Greenland. Yeah. He steps back from the brink. Then it says, but the damage has been done. Dun, dun, dun. That's Politico. Trump steps back from the brink. No, guys, you've been covering this guy for 10 years. Did you not see this? He stepped back. Oh, they got him to step back from the brink. He was going to go in. He was going to bomb Greenland, but he stepped back from the brink. But the damage has been done. The only damage that has been done here is to Politico's credibility. That's the damage that's been done. But don't let that get in the way of their ridiculous, bizarre story.
Did I hear you say someone was concerned they were near the draft age?
Yes.
It's like, hang on to your joystick there, Beavis. We're at all-time recruiting levels on all armed forces, so I don't think we need you just yet.
Well, if we need to be recruiting to the draft to take over Greenland, we've got much bigger problems. Okay?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Coming up on KCMO Talk Radio, I spent an hour watching something here in the Kansas City area tied to the Chiefs that I need to share with you that is not getting nearly enough attention in Kansas City media. It was a Commerce Department meeting yesterday in Topeka that made me want to gouge my eyeballs out. We'll tell you what happened and how it went down coming up next on KCMO. So yesterday I did something I typically don't do, and just I don't have a lot of time to do this, but I made sure I carved out time because I thought it was critically important to watch some of yesterday's Commerce Department committee meeting that took place in Topeka, where you had representatives on behalf of the Kansas City Chiefs in front of the Commerce Department was there as well. And they were part of this meeting where some of the representatives got to ask questions and got to basically try to get some clarity on what exactly this Chiefs deal was going to look like and what some of the details were going to be around this Chiefs deal. Because there still are, in many cases, more questions than answers on this thing. So this meeting was yesterday. House and Senate Commerce Committees were there, and they listened to some of the representatives of the Chiefs, attorneys like Corb Maxwell and Ron Reichman, who is the head of the Scoop and Score organization, the lobbying arm that pushed for years to get the Chiefs over here to the Kansas side of the state line. They were there to answer some of the questions. And, you know, one thing that in hindsight, as I'm watching this thing, I wish every representative did would be to go to, like, take an interviewing 101 course where you actually have to ask a who, what, where, when, why question. Or if you're going to ask a yes-no question, I mean, ask it as directly as possible. Don't ask the, can you respond to, what do you think about? Like, just give me a direct who, what, where, when, why, or a very simple yes-no. Because that puts the person you're asking the question of directly on the spot. I don't do a great job of it in every interview. Nobody does. But at least if you know what you need to do to get the most direct answer out of somebody, you'll try to do it as much as you can. And there was a lot of questions yesterday that are just, oh my gosh, all over the place, hemming and hawing and, you know, making statements and respond to this. It's like, just ask a question. But I have a lot of audio from this meeting yesterday. And there was some okay, there was some bad, and there was some ugly. And one of the things that stood out to me is that no one really is able to put together the simple math. And I know it's not going to be simple when you're talking about billions of dollars. But you have one of the attorneys for Pasanelli, Corb Maxwell, who's up there working on this Chiefs deal on behalf of the team. And he's getting asked, I think, some pretty solid questions about, hey, what's the answer on this? What's the answer on that? What do we do about this? What do we do about that? But the two things that stood out to me is the fact that he continues to talk about these amazing jobs that will come to Kansas when, let's be honest, the bulk of the jobs are temporary construction jobs, and I think that they are getting wildly inflated.
$4 billion of construction means 20,000 construction jobs and careers. For the representatives in this committee meeting, that is roughly full employment in one of your districts, fully working on this project, and they will be working on it for years to come. But it's not just about those construction jobs. This is also about 4,000 permanent careers, hundreds of millions of dollars in annual payroll once the team starts playing, $1+ billion in annual economic activity that will come to our state. And let's be clear, this is economic activity, revenue, and income taxes that will not exist in Kansas if this project does not happen. It also includes visiting team payroll, broadcaster payroll, concerts, major national events, Republican or Democratic conventions that could be hosted, Super Bowls, college football playoffs. Hopefully, the Kansas Jayhawks can play for a national championship again in a Final Four. All of that could happen now with this domed stadium.
Well, that's a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda, hopefully this, that, and the next thing will happen. They're hoping for the stars. That's what they're doing. That's the pitch. You got to build it, and then you got to hope and pray. That's what I'm hearing. And that's from the people that are obviously being paid by the team to make these statements and to make the case on behalf of the team as to why this is such a great deal. And when I hear 20,000 construction jobs, first off, they're temporary jobs. Secondarily, that is such an overestimation. I was looking this up this morning. You know how many jobs it took to build the Bills' new stadium that's going up there in Buffalo? About 10,000. You know how many it took to build US Bank Stadium in Minnesota? About 8,000. Even SoFi Stadium in L.A., they say overall they got a total of maybe 17,000. In Los Angeles.
But we have a practice facility, too.
I know we do, Mark. Where are you finding, if L.A. had 17,000 workers in a metro of 15 million people, we are 2.5 million. Tell me where you're finding those workers for 20,000 construction jobs. Where are you finding them in a metro 1/7 the size of Los Angeles?
You ever see an episode of Sopranos where they make a deal and they'll say some guy gets a job and he just shows up and sits in the lawn chair there?
Yeah.
It's almost like some kind of episode like that or something.
Exactly right.
I'm guessing they're hoping people move here.
Yeah.
But
that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people to
That's
move.
a lot of hoping.
For a short period of time. Once again, these are not permanent jobs anyway, right? Even if you hit that number, and let's say you do, and I think it's wildly overestimated. Let's say you hit that number, and they have to move in because those jobs don't exist in Kansas City. We know that. Then they leave. You can't plan that in as part of your economic development. That's not a long-term play. It's just not. And even, I was reading this story for Allegiant Stadium. You know, that's the new Raiders Stadium in Las Vegas. Headline, stadium generated fewer than a quarter of the projected construction jobs. This was written back in 2020. And former supporters bemoan lies that were told to legislators. Wow! Think about that, right? Think about that. This is a story from the Nevada Current. And the headline, stadium generated fewer than a quarter of the projected construction jobs. And you have the local politicians who feel like they were hoodwinked. Because this is how it always goes, guys. This is how it always goes. I just wish that there was more honesty in the conversation. That's all. That's where we got to start. Just be straight with it. Steve's in KCK. What's up, Steve?
Morning, Pete. So what? If it brings all this economic activity, so what? If we got you can't talk about this project without talking about the American Royal Project. The former CEO of American Royal, who's now the CEO of J.E. Dunn, botched that project. And that was a star bond deal. And now they want more money to finish that. If they can't finish what they got, so what? If it's going to bring all this money and you're just going to mismanage it, so what? Thanks, Pete.
Thank you very much there, Steve. That's a very good call. But, you know, that wasn't even the part of this whole deal that I found most offensive. Yesterday, we were told, and I kid you not, that this is a great deal for the Kansas taxpayer. I almost puked up my lunch when I heard that. I mean, it's one thing to make the case as to why you think this will work. But then to tell me and tell the rest of Kansas it's a great deal for the Kansas taxpayer, holy smokes. I may have been born at night, but it wasn't last night. That audio clip is next. Commerce Department committee hearing yesterday, Senate and House members in Topeka. And I'm watching this unfold yesterday, and I'm literally trying to not throw up as I watch the propaganda coming out of the rah-rah Chiefs fanboys and fangirls who are up there trying to explain to legislators who are supposed to represent us, the taxpayer, what an unbelievable deal this is. Just, oh my gosh, you guys should be so grateful that we picked you to be the home of the Kansas City Chiefs. Court Maxwell, real estate attorney, Pulcinelli, gets up there and tells these lawmakers that this is actually a great day for the Kansas taxpayer.
It is also a great day to be a Kansas taxpayer. Why? It's a great day to be a Kansas taxpayer because we pulled off collectively with the legislation you put forward, the administration executed on, and all of us negotiated in good faith for a year plus. We pulled all of this off without raising taxes on Kansas taxpayers, without using any base revenues from the state general fund, and without pledging the full faith and credit of our state to the bonds.
All right, let's just stop right there. Just stop right there. All right? For this guy to get up there and say this is a great day for the Kansas taxpayer, as billions of dollars in future revenues, many of which was going to come to the Kansas coffers anyway, because that's how the idea of the Star Bond District works. There will be organic growth no matter what. If nothing else, because of inflation, there will be organic growth in all of Wyandotte County and in the western half of Johnson County, which is more or less what we believe the Star Bond District is going to be. Now, all of that money that otherwise would have gone to the coffers of the state of Kansas is now going to go to pay off the stadiums. So what do you do for your core infrastructure that you still need to fund around the state? What do you do in the meantime? When you're gobbling up all this money in this abuse of what a Star Bond District was intended to be, and try to make the payments on basic things and fund the basic things that Kansans expect every single year. What do you do? So I just couldn't help but think about Sharice Davids when I'm listening to Cord Maxwell say these things.
No one gives a shit.
No, I'm not buying this, man. I'm not buying it. And the lawmakers who were out there just nodding along. Oh, yeah, this sounds great, Corb. Boy, you're really knocking it out of the park, buddy.
They don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
I've got a Facebook post, Mark, so it'll come around in my memory next year to remember this occasion.
Please do.
Yeah.
Mark this on your calendar there, John. And we're not done there.
This state has won this coveted franchise, this largest economic development project, on the back of tried, true, and tested Kansas Star Bonds.
What? Tried, true, and tested. The majority haven't worked. Tried, true, and tested. The only thing that I can tell that's tried, true, and tested is the hot air and BS coming out of this guy's mouth. You've got to be kidding me, man. I mean, at least just shoot it straight. All I'm asking for is for these guys to shoot it straight and give us a full, detailed, honest breakdown. I know that they've got a job to do, but I watched for an hour yesterday, and still they can't provide any basic math, any basic numbers on how exactly this is all going to work. And that's all any of us are looking for. It's about wanting responsibility from your government. It's wanting transparency. It's wanting accountability. That's it. And I don't think it's too much to ask. It's not.
We are capturing the incremental growth of our district, new lottery revenues, and team-led development to pull off this historic win. It was an honor to represent the team in this. It was great to work with the administration hand in hand with this.
Well, of course
and I applaud everybody in the
Of course it was great to work with them. You took them for a ride. You fleeced them. Of course it was great to work with them.
Legislature that gave us the authorizing tool that let us get this done. This is going to be a historic win for our state, and I look forward to working hard with all of the members of this body, this committee, and the administration to bring this to fruition over the next years. I appreciate the time that the committee had, and of course, all of our team will stand for any questions that the committee or chairman could have.
913-408-7957. That's the text line and the studio line here on KCMO Talk Radio. Got to take a deep breath after that one, all right? Because if not, I'm going off the edge here. I got to stay FCC compliant, and I'm really trying my best to. I really am. I'm working hard on it. And that's why I'm looking at your texts, which, by the way, your texts right now in the text line are not FCC compliant. So you got to give me a text I can read on the air. I can't try to bleep out your texts as I'm reading through these things in real time. It's very difficult to do, John.
We might pick out a comical word of the day and have you read that word, like tissue or something.
Well, I could do like a Bill O'Reilly word of the day, but it's always some big fancy word I've never heard of. When O'Reilly, remember that on the O'Reilly Factor back in his heyday? He used to have a word of the day at the end of his show. And it was always like a word I'd never heard of. But that's not what you're talking about. You got a different idea here.
No, I'm saying we pick out a word where maybe the F-bomb is and we say something like wrestle or, right? So, wrestle you. Or, we'll have to work on this a little more, but maybe that'll be fun. Well, all right. And we can get some of these texts on the air.
Well, I'll let the brain trust on the other side of the glass that you guys figure that one out. In the meantime, I'm just trying to read what I can at 913-408-7957, which is how you join us. So, there were two main people speaking yesterday. One was Corb Maxwell, who's with Pusinelli, and the other one was Ron Reichman, who's a former Kansas Speaker of the House. He's now the chief lobbyist for the Scoop and Score organization that lobbied to get the Chiefs to Kansas. Now, listen, those guys have jobs. There's nothing wrong with those jobs. I'm not even mad at them, to be honest. I'm not. I'm upset with the lawmakers who are not asking the right questions by and large and are just, basically whistling past the graveyard, which is what they're doing. It's the job of the politicians to protect the people in this case. The other guys, they're allowed to do it. Now, do I think it's a little icky when you go from Speaker of the House to now lobbying with the people that you worked with, like the second you leave? Yeah, I think that's a little gross. But once again, nothing illegal about it. State won't change the laws, so it's kind of fair game. But I did have this moment yesterday when I was watching, and I was like, really? Really? This is what we're going to do? It was former Speaker of the House, Ron Reichman, getting called up by his father, Ronald, who is a state senator from western Kansas, represents Dodge City and Meade and places like that. And I'm going to get Coach Mosier, who was a longtime high school football coach in Meade, Kansas. I'm going to get him on. I'm going to give him a hard time about his state senator. So Ronald calls up his son, who is the lead lobbyist for the Chiefs, and has like a yuck fest with him. I mean, just everything about it. I'm not saying, listen, you can be proud of your son. I'm not saying anyone's a bad person here. But it's like, read the room, man. Read the room. Have some self-awareness as to what's going on and how yucky this looks when you, as a state senator, are the father of the guy who used to be the Speaker of the House and now is the lead lobbyist for the Kansas City Chiefs and very integral in moving this team across the state line, and you're just laughing your way through it and making jokes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to address this to the former basketball player from Mid-America. Was a center.
He's talking about his son. So he wants to ask his son a question in this committee hearing. I mean, come on, guys. This is like incestual stuff here going on in Topeka.
Please introduce yourself and state your name.
Ron Reichman, Scoop and Score, forward, not center.
We'll debate that later. As we got this sheets of paper and explain it to us as representatives and senators, we get different questions and different people asking us the pros and cons. And we're out in southwest Kansas, and I can say that they're very excited out there. How would you suggest?
They're very excited. Yeah, the people in Meade are just dying to have the Chiefs in Wyandotte County. They are so, oh boy. Now, once again, when you know the backstory here in the relationship, you have a senator talking to his son who just helped get the deal done. I'm sure made a nice amount of money doing it. God bless him. This is still America. And saying, oh, boy, my constituents, Dodge City couldn't be more fired up.
The Broncos fans out there are very excited.
I mean, dude, geez, what are you doing, man?
Pagers was here to respond. The Chiefs coming to Kansas is a good thing. Thank you.
Wait, but hold on. If they're all fired up about it, why do you have to explain to them how great it is? And to Mark's point, I used to work out there and lived out in northwest Oklahoma. And yes, they're all Broncos fans. The ones in Oklahoma were Cowboys fans, and the ones in southwest Kansas were largely Broncos fans. And this guy's like, oh, my constituents love it, but tell me why I should tell them why they should love it more. That's basically what he said.
Yeah, obviously all the things that Mr. Maxwell spoke about as far as economic development, the number of jobs that come to the region. The jobs come into the region, they come into the general fund. That general fund is spent throughout the state. It's not just the money that comes into the coffers that gets spent in the UG or in Johnson County. Another thing that I hope comes up is there's a community improvement fund that's out there that I hope gets talked about, and a big portion of that is from some of the charitable or some of the money that goes to build different youth facilities and sports parks all over the state, not just here in the eastern part.
Yeah. You might get a park out in Ford County one day. Yeah. I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. I won't. But yeah, you might see a park out there. Just hang tight. All right. Just wait. It's going to be fine. Looking forward to that park happening one day. It's going to be great. Absolutely fantastic. Gray County is on pins and needles, waiting for its park. Fantastic. So the president has been in Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum for about 25 hours or so. He landed just before 6 a.m. our time yesterday. And in the span of that 25 hours, he's cut a deal with Greenland to have basically military bases in strategic parts of Greenland. We don't have all the details on this deal just yet. That's what's being reported by the New York Times after the president posted about this on Truth Social yesterday. This morning, the president and world leaders signed the Gaza Board of Peace Charter. So that is still missing a couple of notable names around the world. I mean, Putin's obviously out. Canada and the UK, they have not signed it yet. China also not on board. Not sure they were expected to ever be on board, but they're not on board. But this morning, the president did sign this with 59 other world leaders. And the idea is obviously to basically try to get the Gaza Strip into the 21st century. Heck, get them into the 19th century, for crying out loud. Just get them to a place where it becomes a desirable place to do business, to try to develop in some way beyond what it currently is. I mean, you got to do that, obviously, by getting the right non-corrupt leadership in charge, which is easier said than done. But once again, it's something that most of the world is behind, and the president has led the way on this. That's a good thing. And then in the midst of all of this, what is he doing? He's having comedy hour. I mean, the guy's giving speeches yesterday. And even if you don't like Trump, I mean, can we all agree that it feels good when the leader of this country, if Joe Biden did this, I would have cheered the guy on. To have the leader of this country look at many of these European leaders dead in the eyes and say, you guys got to step to the plate. We're sick of carrying your load. We're sick of having your back. We just want you to join us and look out for the best interests of the West. And that's in large part what he did yesterday. He called out these guys, many European leaders, to their faces. And it feels so good. And in the middle of all this, he's doing comedy hour yesterday. I mean, it was fantastic. Between the press conference and then he does this Q&A after the fact. And I mean, this right here was just vintage.
That was so strong just prior to that. And I was with the two best pollsters, McLaughlin and Fabrizio. And they said, sir, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, if they came back and ran as president and vice president, they couldn't beat you. And then what happened is the following day, I was told to stay tuned because there's something really bad happening in China. There are bodies laying all over Wuhan, right around that certain building that we talk about. I always said it came from Wuhan. It did come from Wuhan.
This guy saying this with a straight face. You know, if Honest Abe came back, I'd smoke him. Me versus George Washington. Me versus George Washington. Oh, it's not even close. Doesn't stand a chance. Couldn't beat me. The best pollsters in the world say they don't have a chance, John.
I'd tell him, skip the play. I would.
I'll
tell him.
I'll beat you like a man. That's what I'll do. I mean, this stuff is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the fact that he can say it like so deadpan, and there's not even a smirk on his face when he says it. I know that some people see this, and I actually saw it from this account on social media headlined, Republicans Against Trump. He's lost it. He's crazy. He's a lunatic. I really think he's just a comedian. I really think that's it. There was a podcast with Steve Martin a few months ago. Maybe it was only a few weeks ago. The weeks feel like months now. Where Steve Martin says, and I think it was with Jon Stewart, but they were saying that when Trump would come to L.A., he would go to their shows. And this was obviously pre-politics and all that. And Trump was loved by Hollywood and Democrats and everything else, right? And he was fascinated by comedy. Like, he had a real passion for people who were really funny and how they delivered their jokes and how they did their routines. And they had this whole podcast where they were talking about it. And that makes me realize that really at his core, I think that's all he's doing. He's doing a comedy routine. Like he did when he met the CEO of Toyota yesterday.
Great companies coming in. Apple is spending $650 billion. I mean, it's so many. One just announced $10 billion. Toyota. Met Mr. Toyota in Japan. So what's your name? Toyota. I said, oh, do you own the car company? Yes, 92%. I said, you didn't have to be that specific. But I said, you're rich. Yes, I'm rich. But he just announced he's going to do $10 billion worth of plants. I mean, it's amazing what's going on. Look, it's amazing. We've never had anything like it or close. Nobody else has either. So I think in terms of your investments,
I met Mr. Toyota, and he said, sir, I own 92% of the company, sir. And I said, sir, I don't need to know the exact percentage, sir. And then they just go back and forth. And it's like he's clearly putting on a show. He's doing his routine. And say what you want, just try to break down the barriers for a second and realize that, George W. Bush was funny because he was kind of a goober. Biden was funny because, he couldn't really speak English after a while. Obama had some moments of charm. But this guy's it's a comedy routine. If you went to KU, you don't have to call in. I just want to hear from you on the text line. Kansas City Star reporting yesterday that in the wake of these two teenagers who were shot, one of them was killed over the weekend. The other one is in critical condition. The Hawk, as it's dubbed in Lawrence, is known for its underage drinking, according to students. They bluntly told the Kansas City Star that some of them think the Hawk's going to get shut down. They feel like that's been coming for a while. And when you have an 18-year-old getting shot and killed outside of the bar on Saturday morning at 2 a.m., and the surviving victim at 16, you've got a major problem on your hands here. And it's a part of the story that I brought this up on whatever it was, Monday morning. Like, I understand you're seeing the story, and right away you're like, okay, the focus is obviously who committed the act of violence. Let's find them. Let's arrest them. But then the other side of this is, and finally people are catching up on it, 18 and 16-year-old guys hanging out at a bar where you've got to be 21, right? Those are the rules. That's the law. That tells me that location has a major problem on its hands. And I know some of you are probably recent graduates. Some of you are longtime graduates. I mean, if you graduated when the drinking age was 18, I don't really, want to hear from you because that's not the point right now. But the point right now is like, okay, you've got this establishment that now everyone's talking about has been known to allow underage drinkers inside for a very long time. Now, listen, a lot of us obviously went to college. Fake IDs are a thing. How stringent certain places are, well, that depends on the location, the city, and things like that, okay? I will not admit or deny to any of that right now, John. I'm just going to sit here and say we all know that happens.
So you don't want to know that I went to Gammons and then maybe down to Louise's and then got in line at Joe's Bakery back in the day.
I did
None
not.
of that?
No,
Okay.
no. But I'm glad we got to go down memory lane for a second there.
Just to go to Palladium and Pete and have a good time.
That sounds like a good time. I've been to one bar in Lawrence, and it's the Wheel. And
got to go to Louise's when you're up there sometime.
I will make sure.
For a long time.
I will do that. Whenever I've gone to a KU game, not every time, but it has often involved a stop at the Wheel, which is a great college bar. I mean, it's voted one of the best college bars in America.
They're kind of on campus. Like I said, Louise's, that's down on Massachusetts, down on the main drag, but the Hawk and the Wheel are a little more off the beaten path, if you will, a little closer to campus housing.
Yeah, right on that kind of side hill. And right by the Beta House, and as someone who's a Beta, I've been to that KU Beta House. I wasn't a Beta at KU, it was at Villanova. So I know the Beta House, great guys, fantastic house. They got that cool basketball court in the back that I think is fantastic. But that little area there right by the Hawk is kind of a neat part of, not technically on campus, I guess, but it's all part of this kind of cool part of Lawrence.
If you've not been there, then you would think, well, why aren't the cops patrolling that? It's because it's kind of a neighborhood intersection, literally. And it hasn't changed much since I went there. Right? They're putting in a new little condo right on the corner now, but, that's it. The Hawk and the Wheel have been right there on that corner, and there's just some houses around it, apartments and student living. And so people going up and down the streets isn't unusual, or people milling about outside doesn't seem unusual as well. So it lends itself to blending in, if you will.
Yes, that's a good way to put it, John. So now the Hawk is saying here in a statement that we're fully cooperating with law enforcement in their ongoing investigation. The safety of our guests and staff remains our top priority, and we appreciate the quick response from first responders. According to the bar's Instagram page, it is set to reopen today. Now, if I'm 21, I'm not afraid to go to the Hawk today. All right, you have two people who have been arrested, and they're teenagers as well. And they're the ones who are alleged to have committed the shooting. You have two guys, I think one was charged with first-degree murder, the other charged with second-degree murder. So you've got, obviously, serious charges being filed, as you should, against these two teenagers who were involved in this. So I don't think it's about necessarily the location being unsafe. But you do have a problem if you're notorious for being an establishment that allows underage drinking, where you've got 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds running around, potentially boozed up, and then something happens that leads to this tragedy from last Friday night, Saturday morning. And that's where it's fair to ask, I think, a lot of questions as to what the Hawks' policies are, how seriously they do take this underage drinking, and they wouldn't be the first college bar. I'm not being naive here. They wouldn't be the first college bar to be like, wink, wink, nod, nod, okay, come on in. They're not the only one. But when you have a murder take place outside of your location, sorry, you're going to have problems. And people are rightfully so going to be asking a lot of questions as to what exactly, went on down here and how this all went down. 913-408-7957, the text line and the studio line on KCMO. On the text line, Pete, you just admitted you're a beta. Ha, 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 ha. Very good. Yes. Never heard that one before. Thank you very much there. Take a bow. I can't give you a rim shot. Heard that one a million times. Let's go to Todd. He's in Lee Summit. What's up, Todd?
Hey, Pete. Good morning. I drive Uber there on the weekends in Lawrence. And, one of the things about the students there, they're fantastic, man. They're just great, respectable kids. And I'm not condoning them drinking, but that's been going on for decades, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, kids go to those bars in that area. But I think the problem is, let's look at the incident that happened. Let's look at the shooters, right? It's the same incident that happened, the same kind of thing that happened at the Chiefs Parade. It's all these after-school basketball shootings that happen. Let's look at certain communities that are doing this, man. You know what I mean? And I hate it for the kids that are there because, it's not their fault, even though they go there to have fun, and that's what you do in college.
That's a fair point. Heck, you had that altercation that resulted in a shooting at the gym over in Lee Summit, right? 2 weekends ago that took place. So you
Absolutely.
Guys have had it out there too. So you're right. It's not unique to Lawrence, and I'm not suggesting that it is. But when you then have boozed up teenagers on top of that, man, I mean, you've got a bad situation on your hands.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that, man. But, driving out there for years, doing Uber, man, I've never had a problem with any of the students at all. When they have parent weekends that parents come in, I thank the parents. I'm like, man, you guys are doing a great job raising these kids because they're super nice. Yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you for the ride. But it's just those outside factors that are coming in, man, that are creating this problem.
Well, and as I understand it, none of these, the two that were shot, well, they were too young. And then the two that are alleged to have been involved with the shooting, they were all inside the Hawk, but none of them were KU students. So you do have an outside influence, to your point. Now, listen, is every kid that's ever stepped foot on KU God's gift? No, that's not the case. But I appreciate your perspective because you're driving them around after a few pops on a Friday and a Saturday night. And it's good to hear that by and large your experience has been positive, is what you're telling me.
Absolutely, man. And, you pick them up from the dorms, drop them off at the Hawk or Luis's or wherever, or, Logie's, and then you pick them up and they're drunk and they're just really nice and they're really, just good kids, man. And all they want to do is get home. No fights, nothing like that at all. It's just the outside influence, in my opinion, just being an Uber driver, seeing all aspects of them.
And I don't know what you do about that, Todd.
Well, I mean, maybe a little bit more security, maybe a little more stringent, but you got to let these kids. I mean, they're paying to go to school there, and and I don't think it's them. I don't think it's a KU student. When I heard the story, I don't think it was a KU student. I knew it wasn't. Yeah, well, and it wasn't. You're right. I mean, what you do about it though is, yes, you got to get more stringent when it comes to security and making sure that you only have 21-year-olds. I mean, let's be honest too. There's a heck of a lot of ways to have a beer or a drink if you're not 21 somewhere on a college campus. All right, don't let your establishment be that place. That seems like obvious step number one, but I get it too. A lot of money to be made in these college bars. Let's not kid ourselves.
Yeah, it has that odd feel. Like I say, it's not really a campus bar on campus, and yet it kind of is, And so we say, well, they weren't students, which is interesting, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, I guess anybody could come in there, but typically it's, I would say, 75 to 80% of the crowd on any night are KU students.
Yeah.
Right? It's not some place that people wander off of up Massachusetts as they hit the circuit, if you will, per se.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree with that. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO.
I almost forgot the Hawk is also where the Boom Boom Room is, which has caused some issues over the years since social media has become relevant and prevalent. There's been photos that have circulated of former KU players being there doing some things maybe they shouldn't and all that stuff. So it's not just the drinking, but maybe some other things too.
The Boom Boom Room.
Yeah, I don't think we want to go down that road, but
I don't know anything about it, and Mark, I don't want to know anything about it. I'm a hard pass, all right? A hard pass.
Boom, boom, boom.
There you go. Thank you for that little tidbit, Mark. I can always count on you for something good on the back end.
Oh, yeah.
The Boom Boom Room. Okay. All right. That's enough.